Welcome along to a special edition of Monday Night Pool. We are back for one night only, and the European Vice-Captain Karl Boys, my usual Monday Night Pool guest, is with me. Who else, of course? But Karl, before we get into Monday Night Pool, I think if you've got a spare one, I wouldn't mind a bandana, but what is that all about?
Well, to be fair, Nick, 2020 has been a strange year. Nothing stranger than half of Team USA sporting horrific mullets. And then your partner in crime, Emily Fraser, was doing her best Wurzel Gummidge impression the other night on Zoom. So I thought I'm going to stick my bandana on and just throw that out there a bit.
Well, I'm glad you said that and not me, Karl. I think I'll move swiftly on and we'll get stuck into... We want to preview this year's Mosconi Cup, which of course starts a week tomorrow. It's getting very close now. But before we get into the meat of this year's event, we wanted to do a Monday Night Pool to reflect on last year's, because it was one of the most epic Mosconi Cups we've ever seen. It was a brilliant event in Las Vegas. And just wanted to talk about a couple of players in particular from both teams. So we'll start with your team, the Europeans, and a guy who made a lot of headlines at the Cup last year, Josh Filler. He had two big wins over Shane Van Boening, and we're going to look at a couple of shots from those matches now. And he's a guy, isn't he, Josh? He's a very quick player. I think Marcus Schmatt last year referred to him as the Ronnie O'Sullivan of pool, and you can see why. But in some ways, you could accuse him almost of being too quick. I don't think he is, but you see the shot we're going to see here. You see Shane misses, and Josh literally jumps out of his seat and runs around the table. And it's the kind of thing that maybe a coach might be tempted to say to him, Josh, just take a step back, slow down, assess the table. But actually, you don't really want to do that, do you? Because that's kind of why Josh is so good.
Yeah, I think the important thing about sort of being a coach or, even watching on, you don't necessarily have to be a coach, is you've got to understand, what players' strengths are. And, the last couple of years, Josh was, probably been the best player in the world. So he's like full of confidence. He loves the arena. This is why he plays pool. He wants to perform in matchroom event arenas. We've seen that with winning the US Open. And he wants to play Shane. He knows Shane is, Mr. American Pool. Now, we know Skyler the last couple of years, has been unbelievable. But Shane's still the man, isn't he? He's still Mr. Pool from America. So he's just so pumped up. And, I won't be saying too many things to this kid because he is like a phenomenon. There's no doubt about it.
And let's look at one other shot in particular, because it's not just his pace and his exuberance. He's a good safety player as well, and we've picked out, this is a 4-ball safety, which was absolutely one of last year's shots of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he played a combo to start, and it was quite an awkward one. He was just trying to pop the ball he was hitting a bit further out to leave it a cut into the corner. So it was a little bit unlucky, but slightly misjudged. And it was one of them, I was stood sort of behind the cameras, and the atmosphere last year in America was the best atmosphere I've ever known in the USA. It's always been a bit flat over there, but boy, did they bring their A game, that crowd, that last year. It was, you was there, Nick, you heard it. It was, it was like being in Europe, really. And, this shot went a little bit wrong, but I wasn't sure whether he was trying to bank it. Was he playing a two-way bank? Was he playing safe? Only Joshua knows that, but the speed control. But what I loved was his, what he did here, where he sort of like willed it. He knew, look, he's just such a pumped up kid, and it's great for the Mosconi at the end of the day. You don't want people just to be wooden and not show any emotion. So, he's such a talented player. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely, and we can't wait to see him again this year. And we know from the interviews we've already seen he's very keen to play Skyler again, but also to play Shane Van Boening. Who's the king? We'll find out again this year. One player for Europe who you've brought back onto the team this year, yourself and Captain Alex Laley, who some people still have a few question marks about, which I think is perhaps a little bit unfair, but Iklenk Kachi, he's played 2 years now on the Mosconi Cup, and fair enough, in the first year, perhaps struggled on the first couple of days, just getting used to the atmosphere and the environment that the Mosconi Cup is played in. But then the second half of his debut in 2018, he had some good results, and then last year in singles in particular, he really stood out. And I've picked out a couple of shots here. He placed Tyler Steyer twice actually last year, once on day 2 and once on the final day. And this first shot is a bank shot from that match on day 2, and it's worth saying as well that Clenty's got a lot coming into this match. There'd been an earthquake in Albania overnight, so we'd found out about that morning. So he had a lot on his mind. that day. There was also a lot of pressure because people were talking about the fact he hadn't played well the year before, but he really brought it last year. And yeah, just wanted to have a look at this bank shot against Teale from last year, Karl.
Yeah, I think to be fair, the critics have been a little bit harsh on Catch. He's a young man. He's not played in many matchroom events, and for pool, that is the pinnacle of our sport. It's the matchroom arena events, and obviously, you've acquired the US Open, the World Nine Ball, which unfortunately didn't go ahead this year. So for pool players, we don't actually play in these events that often. So he's probably only played in a handful so far, so it's a little bit unfair, I think. But he struggled in his doubles. He's not managed to win the points. He's done really well in his singles matches. He's only lost one singles matches in both cups. So we just feel like with youth, he deserves another shot. He deserves to maybe us come from a different angle. And I remember his first Mosconi Cup, he was thrown out there with Kazakis for his doubles match, and two rookies going together is very, very, very harsh when you're not used to that arena. So we have no qualms about his game whatsoever. He's a future world champion. He's won many big tournaments. He's been European #1 for quite a long time, and he's here to stay. It's just moulded him into a good doubles player. When you look at somebody like Albin, who brings that such good experience in doubles play, it's hopefully Catchy can learn from that, and hopefully me and Alex bring that side of the newness of Catchy, if newness is a word.
So let's take a look at this shot in particular, because he was brilliant in the singles play last year, and this match against Teale, he pulls off. I mean, we talk about Billy Thorpe and bank shots at the Mosconi Cup, and funny enough, we will on Monday Night Pool in a few moments. And it's a shame, in the current situation, we can't do a normal Monday Night Pool and get you playing a few of these shots. But this bank from Clenty is one of the highlights of last year's event.
Yeah, he was a little bit fortunate to not scratch on the bank, but then he made a good bank shot. Pretty regular shots for pool players, and then the one rail kick, that was a lovely shot. Usually, when the object ball's closer to the rail, it makes that shot a lot easier. But because it was quite far out in the distance, that was a lot harder. And I see a lot of things online over the years. Oh, 9 balls easy, it's bucket pockets. As you will have done as well, Nick. But at the end of the day, if you have, let's say, the snooker style pocket, you're not going to see the players going for bank shots, kick shots, jump shots. You're just going to see too many safety shots. That takes the element out of what 9 ball pool is, and the fun and the fast paced game what it is. So then people should just shut up, actually.
Well, let's move on. One more shot from Clenty. This is on the final day against Teale, and a lot of pressure on this match because USA are closing in on the cup. Jason's already lost to Billy Thorpe that morning, so Europe really couldn't afford a defeat here. And Clenty stood up when he needed to, and it's a great shot. Teale maybe thinks he's left Ekland a jump shot there, maybe that might be a bit of a 50-50, but the movement that Catchy gets on this cue ball is quite something else. How's he actually achieved that?
Yeah, I mean, this shot, like I said, is it's if the cue ball is closer to the rail, the professionals will pot this and certainly rattle the jaws more often than not. But because it's so far away and the distance is there, it's made this shot a lot harder. But I always kind of love this type of shot, and I think it's a shot that always looks well on TV. And he played it well, and like I said before, he's played good. At the end of the day, he's just not quite had them doubles match points yet, and that was our reason for obviously selecting the Albanian assassin this year.
And I'm sure with the help of yourself and Alex, he'll come good again this year. And we look forward to seeing as well if you can mould a bit of a doubles player out of that. Because one thing, and perhaps it's something we'll talk about later on in the week at the training day and the press conferences, but in defence of Catchy with the doubles, he doesn't actually play a lot of doubles in Albania. He's not grown up with that, like, say, the likes of Albin and Josh Filler and some of the American guys have. So he's a little bit disadvantaged there. But moving on, let's take a look at a couple of American players, and perhaps not one of the obvious ones you talk about when you talk about Team USA and the Mosconi Cup, but Billy Thorpe last year I thought played very well at times, and I think in one of the interviews at the end of the event I sort of referred to him as the hype guy, and he is. He gets the rest of the team going. You see him during matches. He's the one who comes down between racks. He's talking to the players in the practice room. He's getting them ready, getting them hyped up, getting them motivated. But on top of that, he comes with some big moments, and we've picked a couple out. First of all, there was a few options actually in doubles matches that we could have chosen here. He played a really good doubles match with Bergman against Shaw and Fine later in the tournament, but this is from the second day. This is him and Skylar Woodward, and well, he is the king of banks. He wins the banks division at things like the Derby City every year. He's known for his banking, and we've picked a couple out here. Starting with this one in the doubles with Skylar.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the Derby City Classic's a big event in America. They play all these silly little games you can play on a pool table, the things we don't see on the Sky Sports and Matchroom events. But he is renowned as within the top 3 bank pool players in the world. And if you're sort of watching at home and you don't understand that, it's basically where you're doubling, banking the ball, and you can play a game on a pool table where the first one to score 5 banks wins the game. And he doesn't miss many banks, this kid. He's going to miss more pots than he will do banks, that's for certain. And, some of the bank shots are quite easy, but you've still got to hit the cue ball right and understand the pace and things like that. And he's a very good shot maker. As you said, Nick, he's great for the team. He gets all the lads up for it. If he loses 5-0, he's back out there cheering on. And that's what the Mosconi Cup is all about.
And to be fair to Billy, we could have picked out some shots that aren't bank shots, and I'm sure in the future we will do, because he is so much more than just a banks player. But yeah, we've shown a couple there which sort of really highlight how good he is at that kind of shot.
Yeah, and Nick, the 3 ball, the red 3 ball, what he banked, he's understanding how to bank that ball. He played it with low spin on the cue ball, and the 3 ball didn't go in clean. Now, as we said before about these people who keep harping on about the size of the pocket, that might not have gone in the centre of the pocket, but the spin he's put on the cue ball has helped that 3 ball spin into the pocket. So he knows, being a top level pro, that is giving himself more margin for error, and that is the class and the art of being a pool player. It's understanding these these little tricks of the trade.
And absolutely, and I think that's the shot where, to be fair, I'm somebody who watches pool and might play in the pub every now and again, but I'm absolutely not a pool player. And watching that, even now, I'm not sure that's what I'm not sure I would have even seen that or thought that was possible. And then to get the cue ball spinning as it does, and also it comes back and gives him position on the 4. It is one of those shots, isn't it, that maybe yourself as pool players, you might have been in the booth and saw that straight away, but for somebody like me watching the audience, it's hard to see that shot before you make it.
Yeah, that's why you present this show, pal.
Well, we're moving on to the MVP then, Skylar Woodward, because I don't think we can really talk about last year's event without talking about Skylar. We spoke about Josh on the European side, and he has 2 massive wins over Shane Van Boning. And I think it says a lot about Skylar Woodward, actually, that he's in the team room all week saying, let me at this guy, I want to play this guy. And it works out on the final day that Skylar's up against Josh Filler, and it's for the cup. It gives Skylar the opportunity to make that winning 9 and win the cup. And I wanted to have a general chat about Skylar really. We could have picked out many of his shots from last year, but I'm just going to pick out these winning moments because he's beaten Filler, all the pressure. It's on Thanksgiving, it's in front of a home crowd. He's been telling the team all week, I want to play Filler. Filler's beaten Shane 5-0 and 5-1. That's how good Josh Filler was playing last year. And Skylar was just on another level last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Skylar did miss a few shots, but things were going his way. He played great. He's a different player in the Mosconi from when I was playing. My last Mosconi was 2015 before I stopped playing, and I played Skylar in the singles. He was a lot slimmer back then, a bit like myself, but he's just sort of come into his own a bit. He probably takes it a bit more serious than he used to, practices harder, but he's another guy who, no disrespect to Shane and them guys, but he's kind of like the leading man for America now. He wants to get out in that arena. He wants to play the best players. A little thing about Joshua, though, Joshua was flawless the full tournament. He maybe played 2 bad shots in the whole event. And I think what happened in that match is, a couple of the guys for Europe, naming no names, wasn't quite at the races, wasn't playing their best pool. And he maybe felt like all the weight of the world was on his shoulder, and just a couple of shots. And I know obviously people have to write about the stories and the headlines, but he was absolutely flawless last year in the Mosconi, was Joshua Filler.
And in fairness to Joshua, he was in 2017 as well on his debut. He was the MVP that year because Europe won the Cup. If they'd have won the Cup last year, there was no doubt that Josh would have been the MVP. One other thing with Skylar, just before we leave it for this edition of Monday Night Pool, he also has that relationship, and you had it, Karl, as well, and you see players now like Jason Shaw and Joshua have that relationship with the crowd, but also there's a lot of confidence about Skylar Woodward at the Mosconi Cup. You see, when he makes that four ball, he knows, and it's Thanksgiving, there's 1,500 Americans there all cheering him on, and he even goes to the European corner of the arena and gives them a little bit of emotion. Look, Karl, we've seen it before. When you celebrate when there's still balls on the table, it can go wrong, but not for Skylar Woodward at last year's Mosconi.
No, I mean, the way he got position on the combo, it was a dead cert, and he knew that. And, the way he celebrated was helped to the crowd. It was, very rowdy and noisy, and it erupted. So you can't help but celebrate. And I've read some stuff and seen people comment, "Oh, why are they acting like that? Why are they doing this? They won't do that all year round." But it's the fact of you've got 2,500, 3,000 people in the crowd drinking, singing songs, and you can't help but get involved. It's just one of them. Some of the stuff, when you look back on what you do, you think, did I really do that? But it's just the emotion. And, as I said before, Skylar Woodward, for me, is the complete package for a Mosconi Cup team player. Unfortunately.
It sets it all up, doesn't it, for a great Mosconi Cup. Again this year, it feels like we've reached a stage in the Mosconi Cup's history where it's very, very hard to predict it. There might be favourites with the bookmakers, but you go online, the American fans are fancying their chances, the players certainly are, so are the Europeans. It sets it up for a great week. It all starts a week tomorrow, Tuesday, December 1st. We're live 6:30pm in the UK on Sky Sports, on DAZN in the USA from 1:30pm Eastern. Between now and then, a lot of build-up content coming to you across the Matchroom Pool social media pages. We've got live press conferences, we're live training with the players, loads more behind-the-scenes content as well. So stay tuned across Matchroom Pool on social media over the next week as we build up to this year's Party Poker Mosconi Cup.
Get it all, we gon' get it all. Got the vision in our scopes, gonna stumble, gonna fall. Can't give up, is what we made for. Try again and we gon' ball. Get it all.